Welcome back to Fintech Homies. So for episode 7, we're going to be diving into something a little different. We're going to be taking a look at military strategy.
That's right. We're going to be seeing how these tactics, these strategies that were used by, legendary generals and conquerors can actually apply to the world of finance, business, and investing.
We'll be drawing inspiration for this from Robert Greene's book, The 33 Strategies of War.
It's uh, it's a really fascinating book. It's packed with all of these, timeless insights from figures like Sun Tzu, Napoleon, and even Mae West.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Military strategy.
hmm
What does that have to do with fintech?
Yeah, you might be thinking, wait, hold on. Are we turning our portfolios into a battlefield?
No, definitely not.
Not at all. Think of it more as, we're using the wisdom of Athena, the goddess of strategic warfare, to basically level up your financial game.
Okay, so how do we even begin to apply war strategies to something like fintech?
Well, one of the most fundamental principles that Green emphasizes is choosing your battles wisely. He calls this the perfect economy strategy.
So it's not about winning every single trade, jumping on every hot stock tip.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your limitations. It's about assessing the risks and rewards and focusing your energy on those battles where you have the highest probability of success.
So kind of like what we talked about back in episode 3 with risk management, being disciplined and patient.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best move is to hold back and let the market play out. Remember Warren Buffett's famous quote, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient."
Yeah, right. So patience really is a virtue, even in this, really fast-paced world of fintech.
And that leads us to another one of Green's strategies that can be incredibly powerful in both war and business, the counterattack strategy.
Instead of always trying to be the first mover, you let your competitors kind of take the lead and then you strike when they're vulnerable.
Precisely. Think about Facebook. They weren't the first social media platform, but they learned from the mistakes of MySpace and capitalized on their weaknesses.
So it's almost like, waiting for your opponent to overextend themselves
Yeah.
and then, use that momentum against them.
That's a great way to put it. It's a strategy that requires patience, observation, and the ability to seize the right moment.
You know what else this reminds me of? This reminds me of the lean startup methodology where you test the market with a minimum viable product, gather feedback, and then refine your strategy based on real-world data.
Yeah, that's a fantastic connection. It's all about minimizing risk, learning from the mistakes of others, and maximizing your chances of success.
Okay, so we've got choosing our battles, we've got counterattacking. What other military tactics can we kind of apply to the world of fintech?
Well, Green also talks about the importance of speed and surprise. He highlights what he calls the blitzkrieg strategy, which is all about overwhelming your opponent with sudden, decisive action.
Okay, so that sounds intense. Are we talking about you know, launching a hostile takeover of a rival fintech company?
No, not necessarily. It's more about being agile, adapting quickly to changes in the market, and seizing opportunities before your competitors even realize what's happening.
So I'm thinking about how Tesla disrupted the auto industry with its electric cars. Nobody saw it coming, and traditional car makers were just left scrambling to catch up.
Yeah, that's a classic example of the blitzkrieg strategy in action. Tesla moved fast, broke conventions, completely changed the game.
But speed without focus can just be chaotic, right?
Absolutely. That's why Green also emphasizes the importance of targeting your opponent's weaknesses. He calls this the center of gravity strategy.
So it's not just about moving fast, it's about moving strategically. Find your competitor's Achilles heel and strike there.
Exactly. In the world of fintech, this could mean, identifying a competitor who relies too heavily on a single payment processor, or, maybe a traditional bank that's slow to adopt mobile banking. By targeting those weaknesses, you can gain a significant advantage.
It's like in that story about Musashi, the legendary Japanese swordsman that
Mhm.
Green mentions in the book. How he noticed that his opponent had carelessly tossed his sword sheath onto the sand before their duel.
Yes.
And Musashi just recognized that, that seemingly insignificant detail, that was a sign of overconfidence, just a fatal weakness in his opponent's mindset.
Yeah, and he exploited that weakness and he ultimately won the duel.
So it's about being observant, paying attention to details, recognizing those subtle signals that can reveal your opponent's vulnerabilities.
That's the essence of strategic thinking, whether you're on a battlefield or in the boardroom. So far we've talked about choosing battles, counterattacking, speed, surprise, and targeting weaknesses. All incredibly valuable strategies in the world of fintech.
But there's more, right? There's got to be more to Greene's arsenal of wisdom.
Absolutely. There's always more. Let's shift our focus now to the art of maneuvering and deception. Green explores some really fascinating strategies in this area.
Deception. Now are we talking about playing mind games with our competitors?
In a way, yeah. One of the most one of those intriguing strategies that Green discusses is what he calls the ripening for the sickle strategy.
Okay, ripening for the sickle strategy.
Oh.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's about patience, timing, and creating the right conditions for victory. It's about manipulating your opponents into positions of weakness before you strike.
So it's not about brute force. It's about, like, subtle manipulation.
Precisely. And it reminds me actually of how some venture capitalists operate. They might maneuver startups into taking deals that seem favorable at first, but ultimately give the VC more control in the long run.
It's like setting a trap, luring
Yeah.
your opponent into a position where they're vulnerable.
Exactly. It's a strategy that requires a deep understanding of your opponent's psychology and the ability to anticipate their moves.
And a lot of patience too, right? You have to be willing to play the long game.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best way to win is to wait for the right moment to strike.
Green also talks about the turning strategy, right? Distracting your opponents while you're attacking their vulnerable flank.
Yes. This strategy is all about creating a diversion, drawing your opponent's attention away from your true objective. Think about Napoleon's campaign in Italy.
Didn't he like trick the Austrians into thinking he was going to attack them head on? And then he sent a small force to cross the river and attack from an unexpected angle.
Exactly. It's a classic example of the turning strategy in action. Napoleon used deception and misdirection to create an advantage and achieve a decisive victory.
It's kind of like in the business world when a smaller company disrupts a market by focusing on like a niche that the bigger players have overlooked. They kind of come in from the side while the big guys are all busy fighting each other.
Yeah. That's a perfect analogy. It's all about finding creative ways to outmaneuver your competition. You don't always have to win by brute force.
Sometimes a clever flanking maneuver is far more effective. Okay, so we've covered maneuvering and deception. What else can we learn from the battlefields of history?
Well, Green also stresses the importance of morale. He argues that you can't win a war, or a business battle for that matter, if your team is demoralized.
Right, makes sense.
Eh?
If your team doesn't believe in the vision or trust the leadership, you're not going to get very far.
Exactly. Building a strong team culture, inspiring your team to believe in the mission, and leading from the front are all crucial elements for success.
It's like in sports, right? A team with high morale can often overcome, even the most talented opponents.
That's a great comparison. And speaking of unconventional approaches, Green also explores the effectiveness of guerrilla warfare in business.
Now, hold on. We're not talking about literal warfare here, are we?
Of course not. In this context, guerrilla warfare refers to using unconventional tactics to disrupt larger, more established players. Think of how fintech startups are challenging traditional banks.
They're nimble, adaptable, and not afraid to break the rules. They're like the rebels of the financial world.
Exactly. They're using technology and innovation to create new products and services that are appealing to consumers who are dissatisfied with the old ways of doing things.
It's like David versus Goliath, but in the world of finance.
Yeah. And, Green even cites Gandhi's Salt March as an example of successful guerrilla warfare, a nonviolent protest against British rule, but incredibly effective.
That's fascinating. So by using peaceful resistance, Gandhi was able to expose the British Empire's weaknesses and ultimately gain independence for India.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected and unconventional strategies can be the most powerful.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground today. I mean, we've gone from choosing our battles and counterattacking to speed and surprise, maneuvering and deception.
Yeah, we even touched on the importance of morale and how guerrilla warfare tactics can play out in business.
It's incredible, really, to think that these principles that we've been talking about, they come from, the battlefields of history.
Right, and they can be applied to the boardrooms of today and the digital landscapes of the fintech world.
It's almost like Robert Greene gave us this, secret decoder ring.
To unlock the mysteries of success in business and finance.
And it's not just theory, right? I mean, Greene's book, it's packed with real-world examples
Hmm.
from from history and from modern business.
Exactly. I mean, it's like having a cheat sheet for navigating the complexities of competition.
It really is.
Mm.
So, from all these strategies, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What really stood out?
I think for me, it's about the importance of combining um, careful planning with calculated risk taking, and also having this willingness to embrace those unconventional tactics.
A powerful combination, especially like you said, in a world that's constantly changing so rapidly.
Yeah, and especially in the world of fintech where innovation is, kind of the name of the game, the people who can adapt and think strategically are the ones who are going to thrive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, FinTech homies, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of military strategy and finance, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content.
Until next time, keep those strategic minds sharp.